Rumspringa!
Hey, Brynne, have you seen Steel Magnolias?
Oh my god, yes, I love that movie.
Jonsey, you've seen it, right?
Hey, Tony.
Yeah.
You've seen Dracula, right?
Oh, I love that movie. It's so good.
Lena, you've seen it.
What do you think?
Filmspringa!
Hey, Brynne, have you seen Weekend at Bernie's?
Oh my god, Weekend at Bernie's saved my life.
Jonsey, you have to have seen it.
Oh my god, no, I haven't. Of course not. You've seen Nightmare on Elm Street. It's the best.
That movie scared the out of me when I was a
You know,
kid.
did it scare the out of you? I have not seen that one, and I will be praying for all of your souls. It's your Filmspringa, Lena.
Hasn't seen it.
It's showtime!
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Filmspringa, the show about all of your favorite films and your sheltered friend who's never seen them. I'm Tony, and I'm here with...
Brynne, I'm not the sheltered friend.
No.
Jonsey, I am the sheltered friend.
There she is. And everybody, we are talking about one of my favorite movies this week. I'm so excited for this. It is the 1985 British American dark fantasy Return to Oz. I'm excited about this one. I love this film. I remember it as a kid very, very vividly. Yeah, so that's what we're going to get into in this episode of Filmspringa. Are you guys ready for this one?
What a wild ride this was for all of us, I think.
Yeah, I'm really curious.
I'm super excited for this one.
I know. I'm curious to see what Jonsey is going to think of this film, because Jonsey is a big fan of Labyrinth and the Jim Henson and that kind of film. And this is really up that alley. And she's never seen it before until now, which is shocking to me.
This had major Labyrinth vibes.
Oh,
so I had to
major.
look up what was made first.
Yeah. And was it this or Labyrinth? I can't remember.
It was this.
Yeah, it was this in 85. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Then
let's
they
watch.
Totally stole the.
They did the hands, the helping hand.
Yep, the hounds. Yep. So let's watch the trailer and get our audience into the mood.
I don't know if I'm
for-
ready to get back in that headspace. All right, let's
for
do it.
Return
I
to
want
Oz.
to see the trailer.
This summer, Walt Disney Pictures presents a motion picture fantasy adventure beyond your fondest imagination. You'll be transported miraculously back to the enchanted land of Oz, that magical kingdom beloved by young and old for generations.
It's just a yellow brick.
No, Belina, you don't understand. This was the Yellow Brick Road.
You'll share with Dorothy Gale the shock of finding everything mysteriously changed.
What's happened to everybody?
And you'll delight with her discovery of 4 wonderful new friends who band together against a wicked queen and the dreaded Gnome King. This is the Oz you haven't seen before, and this is the Oz you'll want to visit again and again. From Walt Disney Pictures comes a whole new world of entertainment.
Why don't we just fly back to Kansas?
Return to Oz.
I love it. I want to watch it again right now. I want to watch it again right now. So this film is done by Walt Disney Pictures.
This is Disney.
Yeah,
I
and
was
directed
surprised at that.
and directed by Walter Murch, and the cast. I mean, come on, Fairuza Balk gets her first screen debut, and then you have Piper Laurie in it, and Jean Marsh. There's Nicole. Is it Nicole? Nicole Wilson plays the Gnome King. So it's a pretty good cast for 85. I thought. Brynne, tell us what it's a brief.
Oh man, you're
plot
gonna do this
on
to me?
Yes, because last episode you said you were going through these books, actually reading them with your daughter. So
Yes. So my 5-year-old and I were reading. Like we read the first, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and my daughter was like, "I want to read the next one." I was like, "There isn't a next one. There's like 32 of these books.
There's a lot of them.
There's just so many." So now she will not let us read any other franchise or any other book standalone until we have finished Wizard of Oz. So I'm blowing through them. I'm like, I gotta get out of this world. I feel like
But also, you have a reader.
Oh, that's true. I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever. Way to look on the bright side, Lena. So, this book is it sort of says that it is a compilation or like a mishmash of The Road to Oz and Ozma of Oz.
Mhm.
And it is all the characters are this, like some of the characters are meshed into one, I think for ease of like making it one movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dorothy, and I forgot this part, you guys. Dorothy cannot stop talking about Oz. The movie starts off where back in Kansas, Dorothy, Auntie Em, Uncle Henry, Dorothy cannot stop talking about Oz. So they decide they're going to take her to a ding ding dong mental institution and give her
An asylum.
electroshock therapy. I forgot that. I was watching it and I was like, dark.
I did. I there was nothing in this film I
You
forgot.
remembered that?
Yeah.
But you got to
Dark.
think that was like, you know, the breaking thing in mental
Yeah.
health at that time. So, you know, good on them for being like, you
Yeah.
know, let's worry about this kid's mental health.
Exactly, because it takes place in October of 1899, which is
Yeah.
6 months after apparently she comes back from
She's
Oz.
come back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she is about to get electroshock therapy as a
crazy.
tiny little girl.
Little
Something
10-year-old.
like that.
And she, a mysterious girl, gets her out. She ends up in a puddle, ends up back in the land of Oz. She meets a whole new cast of fun characters. It turns out that the land of Oz, the Scarecrow, has been overthrown. The Emerald City has been taken over by the Gnome King. There's an evil witch called Mombi who switches heads, which left a very, well, I'll talk about that later, the impression that left on me as a child. And Dorothy needs to figure out a way with her friends TikTok and the little hen Belina. They need to figure out how to free the Scarecrow from the Gnome King and restore peace in Oz. And they realize that there's actually that little girl is Ozma of Oz, who is a princess. And then things get real murky at the end.
Yeah.
But you know, Dorothy ends up back in Kansas per usual.
Yeah, per usual.
Yeah, happy ending.
So when this
No
film,
electroshock therapy.
No. So when this film came out, the director Walter Murch made it very clear that this was not a sequel to The Wizard of Oz, the Wizard of Oz everybody knows with Judy Garland. He was like, this isn't a sequel, but everybody when it came out assumed it was the sequel. So
Yes.
all the reviews for it were horrible. Siskel and Ebert put it on the worst movie list for 85 because everybody they were saying it's the worst sequel ever when it was never intended to be a sequel to The Wizard of Oz.
It wasn't supposed to be a sequel.
Yeah,
It was just
so
supposed to be, yeah.
I feel like the
bad
film,
for them for that.
Yeah, I feel like the film was very underrated because take away the fact that people thought it was a sequel, and if they realized it was just a standalone film, it was way ahead of its time in the 80s. Way ahead of its time, I
It
thought.
was actually in the Guinness Book of World Records
Yeah.
for being the sequel that came the longest amount before the original, which was like 46 years. And then it only got ousted after Bambi 2 came out because that was like 60 years or something.
Okay. I was going to say Star Wars.
Yeah.
Actually, Star Wars, the guy who produced The Return to Oz, later produced the Star Wars movies. The same producer.
Is he responsible of Jar Jar Binks?
No, he did the very
Let's just
first.
fire him.
He did the first 3 Star Wars, the originals. So I thought that was cool. And then the director Walter Murch. This was the only film he ever directed, but he was a big name in Hollywood at the time as one of the premier top movie editors, and he had worked on he edited Godfather and Apocalypse Now, and then went to Return to Oz.
Well, he got
One
fired.
of those
He got
movies
fired.
I haven't ever seen. Can you guess which one?
Apocalypse Now.
Well, you already knew that.
I
Probably.
know.
Why have people guess things they already know?
Because I didn't know if he remembered.
So
yeah, Walter Murch was fired.
and then George Lucas and Coppola vouched
Francis
for
Ford
him.
Coppola, Steven Spielberg were
Yeah.
like, you need to hire him back. Like told Disney, get him back. Could you
Get him
imagine
back,
getting
yeah.
fired a week
Into it.
They saw the dailies and they were like, no, we do not like this.
Yeah.
I
mean,
wouldn't
that's
have a
crazy.
lot of faith that the people backing me wanted me to make a good product.
But
I'd
he
be
was
like,
so passionate about the Wizard
Yeah.
of Oz story. He wanted to tell his version
Yeah.
of it.
I just wish they had been like, this is the books version. And I'm
Yeah.
sure there was some marketing about that, but like instead of the marketing being so much about this isn't a sequel, it should have been like, are you a fan of the books?
Here you go. Yeah, exactly.
But also maybe audiences weren't ready for that. You know, like we have Chronicles of Narnia, we have Lord of the Rings, all those kind of things where like you have different people going, no, this is the books.
Yeah. So, but when this came out, Disney was having a hard time going mainstream with live action films because of Flight of the Navigator. Same thing, didn't really take well with the audiences when it came out. I know, me too.
Yes. Finally, Nina has a feeling like we do. How would you like if someone tore it apart?
So,
why would you ever tear that apart?
So when this film came out, people did not like it because they thought it was way too dark for kids. Way too dark. I don't think I saw it when I was 10 or 11 and I was not scared of it. I found it fascinating.
Okay,
I loved it.
Let's get into that. Oh, let's switch it up. Tony, when did you first see this movie?
I was 10 or 11 and I remember seeing it in VHS at the rental when you used to go to Blockbuster or little mom and pop video rental stores. And I was allowed to watch it because it was The Wizard of Oz. And I didn't watch it. So we'd stay weekends with my dad, and he wasn't a Jehovah's Witness. So we got to watch whatever. He's like, pick whatever you want. That's how I got away with a lot of films very young. That's was because of my dad. So this was one when it came out and I saw it on VHS. I was like, I have to watch this. And I was obsessed. Like, I loved it. I liked how dark it was. There was nothing in it when I was 10 or 11 that scared me, which says a lot about me. Because I was not terrified by this movie at all. If anything, I thought it was too short and I wanted more. I remember thinking that as a kid. You
saw it fairly recently when it came out.
Yeah, I probably saw it a year or two after it came out. So I was around 10 when I saw it. And
like 2 years recently, where it's like, okay, it came out. Yeah. My parents had time to watch it on VHS, determine it was good enough for me, and then let me watch it, which is generally 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, your mom had no idea.
No idea. No, because she would have said it's demonistic, and it was totally against Jehovah's Witness religion, 100%. It just like The Wizard of Oz, we weren't allowed to watch, and I saw that because of my grandparents and stuff. So
okay, have a question. Yeah. What about those films made them anti-Jehovah's Witness? Because
the witches, you have witches, you have talking animals are demonistic because they're possessed by the devil. You have the gnome king who represents the devil and the fiery burn brimstone and all of that. So yeah, it was definitely on the no watch list with my mom. But I got to watch it anyway, so there.
Right.
But I loved it,
dude. Yeah,
I really, really loved it when I first saw it, and then I watched it so many times over the years, and then even recently, like I was telling you two, I watched it probably like 4 months ago when we got Disney Plus. I was like, oh my god, it's on here, yay! Because you cannot buy it on iTunes; it's not available on iTunes to buy.
Really?
Yeah. So I watched it since we talked about doing this film last week. I watched it 4 times. So
someone loves this movie.
I do. And I think it's interesting that the Gnome King was originally given to Christopher Lloyd from Back to the Future, and he wasn't able to do it because he was filming Back to the Future at the time.
So wild.
I know. And then Dorothy, because Fairuza Balk ended up getting the role, but the other actresses was Drew Barrymore, Jamie Lee Curtis, which was Fish Called Wanda from last week, and Alanis Morissette.
How random is that? Alanis Morissette. I didn't even know that she was like acting at that time.
Well, she was Little Canada's star.
Yeah.
At that time.
I thought she was a singer, but I didn't know that she was going out for auditions.
Of, like, a Kids in Works kind of science show.
Yeah,
at that
remember?
Time. So she already had some acting chops.
Yeah.
Where she was like science Mickey Mouse show for Canada.
Got it, for
Canadians. But in
also,
like Kids Incorporated.
All the Canadians and all my Canadian friends are going, fuck you, that wasn't it.
They're like, no,
they just like
wrong.
Talk about the science of maple syrup and how to be polite to people.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing too,
they're all hating me right now. It's okay.
The other thing too is like even Jim Henson had a hand in this film with his son Brian Henson playing Jack Pumpkinhead. And then ended up playing the dwarf in doing the voice and the puppetry of the dwarf in Labyrinth. Hobble.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then
So I feel like this movie was actually probably his son's like rebellion. He's like, I'm not gonna work for Jim Henson Studios. And then
I don't know.
He did everything else.
Yeah. He did, maybe. Who knows? But he was in it. And then I love that. Did you recognize the mom who plays Auntie M or Annie M? What she's in?
I didn't I recognized her, but I didn't recognize what she was in.
People
the mom from
Carrie. The crazy mom from Carrie.
Dirty pillows.
Yeah.
They're all gonna laugh at
you.
you. But you know what else is cool is that the woman who plays Mombi the witch.
Yeah. Doctor Who.
Is Doctor Who, but also she's Bavmorda from Willow.
Yeah.
And last week in A Fish Called Wanda, the old lady is Roselle from Willow.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Connection.
All the pop culture people out there.
I don't know how Ma and Pa Jones let me watch Willow from the beginning, but I do.
It's literally a demon woman.
I know.
Okay. All right.
But
it makes no sense for my folks.
Yeah. So the ruby slippers were never in the original Wizard of Oz, and so there's a little bit of Return to Oz. In Return to Oz, a lot of nods to the Wizard of Oz movie, like the ruby slippers, because they had to pay a big. Disney had to pay a lot of money to feature the ruby slippers, and they had them made for the film. Which the scene where the gnome queen is like poking out his little ruby slippers, I'm like, he gay. That is like,
I love that.
I was like, I mean, when I was a kid and I watched it, I remember thinking, why do I connect with this? I know that guy.
Why do I connect with this so much?
So much.
In my notes, I was like, why wouldn't my parents let me watch this? And then when it got to the point of the ruby slippers and a guy wearing them, I was like, this is
it. Yeah. But I like how he has his dress, the robe, and then he just like pokes out his little slippers.
Them out,
Okay.
pulls them back, peeks them out for emphasis.
Yeah.
Pulls them back.
But I could see why in 85 a lot of moms and dads are probably like, oh no, this is way too scary for my kids. I never got scared of it. I was like all into it. But what about you, Brynne? When was the first time you saw this film?
So I saw this film, I was probably like 12 years old.
Okay.
And I saw
that seems like a good age.
Is that an appropriate age?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Sure.
starting this podcast out right. Thanks, guys. It's appropriate age. I remember just thinking it was super cool, super fun, and super dark. I remember even knowing as a child, I was like, this is dark. Like I guess something must have permeated with me with like the
Wheelers.
The asylum.
The asylum, right? That's what kicks it off.
The thing that sticks out for me is like for the rest of my life, I always remembered the heads.
Oh,
and I remember thinking like a little serial killer. I was like, that would be so rad.
I did
to
too.
just have a room.
And I remember going, whose head would I want? And I had a list.
Yes. They're all because the first girl's so pretty and then she changes it. I was like, oh, that would be so. And I remember like thinking,
are these in the books? You're reading them now. Are they the heads, the hall full of heads? Is that in the books?
Yes, that is in the book.
Okay.
It's weirdly way less nefarious.
Yeah.
Because books do it like you do.
Well, because the books are it's a princess, it's not a witch.
Yeah.
And the princess is sort of harmless, I guess, other than that she takes people's heads, and they don't spend a lot of time on her.
Yeah.
But I just remember how visually cool it was with like her walking in and then she takes the head off and then the heads are looking at her and they're also pretty and then cool and different looking. And she was like, you're not pretty, but you're interesting looking. I want your head. And I was like, yes, thank you.
Give me your head.
Yes.
I'm worried about my friends, y'all.
You should be.
So do you,
that stuck with me.
Yeah. Did you get scared by the Wheelers? Like a lot of people, even now when you look at the forums and I was doing research for this film, a lot of people had issues with the Wheelers. They never scared me because I was like, what are they going to do? Roll me over? I don't think so.
They're
problematic as a villain. They're problematic as a villain if you think about it.
They can't go on sand or up a hill.
No.
TikTok's just like, get on the stairs, Dorothy.
All Dorothy has to do is push them over. Right?
Oh, I've got something to say about this.
What?
I think I think they're creepy because it's always weird to see a human-ish form and not a human. Like, so they were creepier to me when they had the masks over. That was when they were scary, but the rest of it, like, you're as creepy as a rollerblader.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Like, I don't want you to have my number, but other than that, I'm fine.
Go ahead, Brynne.
Yeah, because the thing was, as they never scared me as a child.
Yeah.
Like, I remember thinking, like, that's funny and weird, and probably I was thinking about rollerblades. I'm like, I'm gonna get a new pair of rollerblades. But as an adult watching it, I was creeped out at the grown men shrieking at such a volume, following a little girl around.
Yeah.
That is what freaked me out. Grown
that.
men. Stop getting in this girl's face and shrieking at her.
This is the problem I had with the Wheelers.
That was a Mad Max.
Yeah, this is the problem I had with the Wheelers is they had the body like creepy, but in the book illustration, I thought the book illustration of the Wheelers was way, way, way creepier than the film. And I think the film, what they should have done is something with the face so they weren't human looking or as human.
That's what it is in the book.
Yeah.
Well, and at the beginning when they had the masks, like whether it was over their face or over the tip of their head, which is how they're actually like.
Yeah.
Do we have a video of
Yeah,
them?
we do. So that's why it's so everybody at home will know what we're talking about when we're talking about the Wheelers.
The Wheelers. Beware the Wheelers. Yeah. It's on the wall.
Yeah, they weren't scary in the book.
Come here, chicken.
Yeah, for all the podcast people, all they're hearing is just squeaky wheels. That's it. But
and guys squeaking.
So the one of the other ties that this movie did to tie it to the original was taking people in that are not in Oz characters and putting them as Oz characters, because you see the orderlies in the beginning of the film pushing the what's it called, the bed she's on, the doll, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
What is it called? Huh? The orderly pushing her bed.
Oh,
gurney,
yeah,
thank you, gurney. You're both looking at me like,
yeah.
Gurney, yeah.
Oh,
and then Mumby, of course,
you mean
is the
in
nurse.
The madhouse.
Yeah, in the net house, yeah. I thought that, so that was one of the things they did with this film, was trying to tie it in, or giving a nod to the original Wizard of Oz, was that, and like the ruby slippers and a couple other things throughout the film. But I don't know. I felt bad for the guy who played TikTok, because it was the gymnast and he was upside down the whole time. He was feeling like just curved over like this. It was, yeah. I was like, you spent all day in that. What'd you have, Jonsey?
I was just going to say, I think I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. The film to me still holds up after all these years. I still loved it. What about you, Brynne?
Yeah, I still loved it.
Yeah, after all this time?
But it is for a certain type of child and a certain type of person, and I very much still understand that.
I do too. And I love that Tim Burton got his inspiration for Jack Skellington from Jack Pumpkinhead.
Jack Pumpkinhead.
Yeah, from this film.
That was evident.
Yeah.
That was very, very clear.
But it felt like it was very Tim Burton-y to me, even before Tim Burton was probably popular, even making films. I don't know, but to me it was.
And we were talking about this briefly before our show, like we do. And I had to double take and go, wait, is this a Tim Burton film?
Right?
Did I miss that? Like, because you could have told me, like, he was a page assistant on the, he'd work the boom mic.
Or
and I'd
something.
be like, all of this makes sense. Like, not that he had that much influence, but just that, like, he had some part of it in some way, and then went on to do what he did. So
yeah, no, that's true. But the film also, all of the stunts in the film that Veruca Salt
She's not in this.
did She did it all herself. There was no stunt double for a 10-year-old.
The brave child. Her parents should not have let her do that.
And she just
like,
yeah. I couldn't see anybody else.
This film grossed $11 million. It wasn't worth it.
No, it wasn't worth it.
At the same time,
yeah.
Brynne, imagine being a childhood actress and being like, I will do this film and I will do it the way they say to do it.
Someone asked me once if I would allow we were living in Florida and someone wanted my daughter to be in a commercial.
Yeah.
Because she's so stinking freaking cool.
And what did you tell them?
I was like, you know what? Like, I'm super into that. And then I was talking to my husband at the time and I was like, what do you think? Like, should we do this? And he was like, yeah, I think it would be fine. And I was like, okay, but I'm not going to let them put makeup on her because she's got perfect tiny little skin and I don't want them touching her skin. He's like, okay. He's like, and I don't want them making her cry because sometimes they do that. They'll intentionally make them cry if they have to. And he's like, it seems like you're not okay with this.
Yeah, a lot of stipulations.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, I'm not doing it. So no, I would not let Flynn do her own stunts.
You'd be like,
like, no, you're fucking not.
But no, she did them all, which I was like, good for her. Good for her. But yeah, it sucks that the film didn't do well when it first came out. Oh, and did you know this was the first Disney film where they used the blue logo where it comes down like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because before they never did. And they thought, hey, we're thinking out of the box with this live action. Let's give it a shot. But no,
man.
The film bombed.
I wish this much of them thinking outside of the box had paid off more. Although I'm not necessarily saying I wish a Disney entity like that huge of a conglomerate like needed more success, clearly. But I just wish it like kind of stoked them to earlier on make more movies like this.
Yeah.
It did get an Oscar nomination.
It did.
For Best Visual Effects.
That's impressive.
Right? Yeah.
It is a good, like visually, it's very cool. It's just not like a traditional Disney. And
I think this is a great movie.
I do too. Do you think, both of you, do you think it would, if it came out, let's say, within the last 10 years, would it have done way better?
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think the reason why Bed Knobs and well, no, that was before. But
I love
Dark
that movie.
Crystal or
and what was
Legend
the Roald
was
Dahl
around the same time.
No, the Roald Dahl movie we did
Witches.
earlier. Witches. I think those movies wouldn't exist for not these movies.
Yeah. Wasn't Witches 88? Was 88 or 87?
Yeah, and
80,
Richard Oz is 85. Yeah.
And another British dark film where like the Brits were just like, no, we know there's some dark kids out there.
Well, if you
we're gonna keep making movies for them, which also is all three of us here right now.
Exactly. Well, if you look at the source material, the books are not that like they're pretty dark.
Books are not dark. It's not like with the Witches with Roald Dahl, where the books are very dark, even darker so than the movie. Like this is like the Wheelers aren't really scary. Dorothy hides on a hill, and they're like, "Oh, we can't get you."
Yeah.
And then, the Gnome King's like a little scary, but not really. He's mostly fun.
Well, he has ruby red slippers. How scary can he get?
Felt in the book, but I'm not going to be that actually person.
Right?
You should be. That's why you're on this podcast. No.
What did you think of Jack calling a 10-year-old mom?
So this is also from the book.
Yeah.
I liked it.
It's
people had problems with it.
It's weird, but
I liked it.
Weird? I didn't think it was
in the book. He gets brought to life by a little boy named Pip.
Yeah, who's not in the movie.
Who's not in the movie. Well, Pip turns out to be Ozma. It's a whole other thing.
Was Pip transgender?
He was put under a spell by the witch mommy to look like a boy so that no one would think. So he thinks he's a boy. So there is like a whole like Orlando type mid-story gender swap in one of the books.
And the books came out.
I gotta reread these books.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the books came out. When did the books came out? 1902, around there sometime.
Yeah.
So for him to put that kind of a storyline in the book,
and I was like a little.
Well, and you gotta know it's coded because he was like, I can only get away with so much.
Yeah, exactly.
But because I started reading it and I figured out the twist, and I was reading it with my kid, and I was like, oh, nervous about how they were gonna treat it.
Yeah.
And then they do it, and he's like Pip is like a little boy, and he's like, I don't want to be a girl, I want to be a boy, and the Good Witch is like, well, how about you try being a girl for a little bit, and if you don't like it, I'll turn you back into a boy. And he's like, okay. And then he's all smart.
The books were even ahead of its time. Come on.
I have to say, the fact that everyone's like, okay, why don't you try it out? Make sure you don't like it. Okay.
And if you do like it, no big deal. I'll turn you back.
Right.
And I was like, okay.
I wish we could do that now.
Why
hey,
can't
you want to try something?
World?
Here, I'm going to let you try it.
Like
if you don't like it, you can go back to normal.
It's like the heads. Like, just try a new head. If you don't like this head, have another head.
Do you know how much I would have loved to try out being a boy when I was a little girl? Because 100%. I was so aware of everything they just like got a carte blanche for.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I had to like be like, no, I'm charming, and this is what you did me, you know, whatever. Yeah. Like whatever the thing was. I think
so you know what time it's for?
Let's start.
Tell me.
Name drop.
Rachel Maddow. I spend an hour with her every single day.
I once played a drinking game with
Celine Dion.
Just makes me hungry.
Cher. Laura Dern. I don't know her.
Who would you say is the most famous person in your phone?
My good friend Ben Affleck and his crippling addiction to back tattoos.
I have the best Lady Gaga story of all time.
Hate him, loathe her, over them, cancel it, tell me everything.
Yes, everybody, it is time for Name Drop. This is our version of 6 Degrees, and this week, okay, so from this film, who should we pick? Should we do Pippi Lorraine? What do you think? Pip, what's her name?
Pip. You already picked the one person before that I actually knew from the movie, so it's all you guys.
Pipper Laurie.
I'm just going to drink my Coca-Cola.
Hyper Laurie. Yeah, we should do Hyper Laurie.
And from the next movie, I think we should do Minnie Driver.
I agree with you.
Yes, so that's going to be a Pippi Laurie and Minnie Driver. How are we going to get these two together? It's going to be very, very interesting.
I just want to say everyone needs to not underestimate Minnie Driver in The Riches with Eddie Izzard, because that is one of the most fabulous shows ever.
Yeah.
Watch it.
She did a lot of good stuff.
Let's root for a movie.
I love Minnie Driver. Circle of Friends was like
Circle of Friends
for me.
I remember.
I felt,
wasn't that Chris O'Donnell?
Young woman. Yes, I felt very seen.
You did. So that's what we're going to do for Name Drop. It is Pippi Laurie.
Hyper Laurie.
Pippi Laurie. And I can't say it. Why can't I say it? What's wrong with me? Am I
Pippi Longstocking?
Do I smell toast? Is that burnt toast?
Minnie Driver.
Minnie Driver.
Do you smell duck feathers?
Duck feathers. All right, Jonsey, it's your turn. Let's get your feedback on this film, what you thought of it, watching it for the very, very first time, and maybe why Mom and Pop Jones wouldn't have let you watch this at a very young age when it came out.
So let's start there, because I am honestly flabbergasted. I don't understand why Ma and Pa Jones did not let me watch this. I was allowed to watch regular Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
I was allowed to be a reader. I think I read all of the Wizard of Oz books. I was a really advanced reader from a very early age. So I blew through, or just nerd alert.
Both.
No,
both,
but so I blew through them, I think way too young to even fully understand what I was processing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't understand, because like we spoke about earlier, I loved Labyrinth growing up. I was totally allowed to watch Princess Bride. There was definitely some Dark fantasy.
Crystal you watch.
Dark Crystal, yes, absolutely.
That is shocking to me, because
even
non-religious people wouldn't let their kids watch Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
So here's the other thing, is Dark Crystal was something we were allowed to watch, but we totally were like, it's boring. We don't like it as much.
I love
it. So
it.
I actually didn't appreciate what I had at that moment to watch, because first, especially considering how many things I wasn't allowed to watch.
Yeah. See, which is so weird, Jonsey, because all of those like Labyrinth and Dark Crystal, those ones were no fly for me when I was a kid with my mom.
Well, and to me, I grew up on them. We had Little Shop of Horrors with Steve Martin and
Ellen Green.
Ellen Green and
Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis. We had that and Labyrinth on the same VHS. And so literally we would just like watch it. Like
movies are both
almost
so
every
dark
weekend
and not for children.
Yeah.
Yes. And yet those were movies that were totally allowed in the Mon Pa Jones household.
Little Shop of Horror had spousal abuse and pain fetish in it. And you were allowed to watch that?
We knew every word. We knew every word. We knew every syllable. We knew every song and lyric.
That is so bizarre. Okay, back to this film. Jonsey, what did you think watching it for the very, very first time? What were your expectations going in?
Yeah.
And how was your reaction to the film watching it? And what did it leave you feeling at the end?
Okay, so my expectation going in was that, like, okay, there's going to be something very clear that is anti-church or anti-basic message of Jesus Christ. That is going to be why this wasn't allowed. And so I basically watched this whole film, like, waiting, like, every moment going, this is going to be where it is. And, like, and then, like, searching. Like, I'm like, okay, well, I guess the rock guy who then also has control over fire is like the devil, but that's a real big stretch, like, so like I really watched this film being really confused of like, why didn't I know about this film earlier? Like, why would I want to know a little bit, like, why was this film on the forbidden list? Because
was this on the forbidden list? Like, your parents were like, you cannot watch this movie?
No. So that's the other thing I have to like wonder is maybe this was just a movie that slipped through my parents' cracks.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
Can you please never say slip through your parents' cracks again?
God. We're not that kind of podcast.
I don't know how to better describe it. I'm just saying, like, maybe this was a movie they totally would have been like, oh, you love Labyrinth, you love this kids.
One,
but like it wasn't in Jim Henson's repertoire, and so they didn't like it didn't come across their platform, whatever, their radar, and so they never even thought to introduce us to it. So no, I'm a little confused. The only things I could draw from it where I was like, what would the evangelical church, what would the church as a whole, what would be the major problems? And the only things I could think of it was at the beginning, her like seeking mental help. That's a big no-no in the church. You don't seek mental help. And
you
then
turn to the Bible. Right?
And then the bad guy, exactly. Return not to the Bible, to Jesus. Jesus will heal you. Just pray hard enough and you'll be fine. For even, depression. Anyway, let's not go down that alley. But the other only thing I could think of was like, maybe they got mad because the bad guy is wearing women's shoes.
Maybe. It'd be that would be a thing if that was the thing that was like, nope, too pretty of a shoe on a man. No.
Got it. Glitter?
I just remember David Bowie's eye makeup.
Yeah, I was like, there's a Labyrinth.
No one had a problem with that. So like, but those were the only two things that I was stretching for, other than I thought, well, maybe there was something that when this movie came out, everyone was like, this is not for kids.
So they were judging it before seeing it.
Correct. Because I don't know what, like, from the stuff we were allowed to watch as a kid, I don't understand why this was not, like, it was rated PG. It was a Disney movie.
But it goes with all organized religion. You pick and
it doesn't have to make sense.
You pick and choose what you want to believe in the Bible. Not everything.
A scathing indictment.
It is. They pick and choose. I'm going to follow this verse to a T, but forget the verses down below. Organized religion, Jehovah's Witness religion, evangelical religion, even Christians, they all do that. And maybe it was a bit of that for this film. But I want to know what you thought of the film seeing it for the first time now. Like, give us your review of the film and how you felt.
So I I really enjoyed it. This is one of the films that I took the least amount of notes because I was just watching it.
Oh, that's good.
And I honestly, the singular thought I had through the whole thing was, I wish I got to enjoy this as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, I knew there were parts that would have freaked me out and, like, you know, would have, like, nestled in my nightmares or whatever. But I also think there would have been parts that would have been so magic to me that I could enjoy now as an adult watching it for the first time. But just watching it knowing, like, man, I would have loved this movie as a kid. Like, I would have reveled in it. I would have reread all the books. Like, I would have picked it apart as far as, like, what, like, that was the big thing about me as a kid, because I was such a big reader, was getting to watch the movies that I read and picking them apart and being like, well, you know, in my head, I played it this way, you know?
Yeah. The thing that's sad is that you didn't get to watch it with that childhood magic and imagination that I really think this film talks a lot on with Dorothy, where she comes back from the Wizard of Oz and she's obsessed with her journey there, and everybody's telling her, no, girl, you crazy. Let's get you some electrotherapy. Take her there.
And
but
honestly,
in the journey of that, it's pretty much telling kids, like, no, follow your imagination, be creative, and go for it. And don't let people, like, take that away from you, is how I remember seeing the film. And, like, it's still that kind of message still resonates of letting kids use their imagination and be creative and not say, no, don't use your imagination. It's you know what I mean? We need to fix you type of a
that would have been
Tony.
That would have been something. One, it's something I resonated with as an adult watching it, looking back. It would have totally been something as a kid if I got to see. I would have been like,
knowing you, I could have seen you obsessed with this movie as a kid.
I totally would. Like, I think this would have been in the same wheelhouse as my VHS tape with Little Shop and Labyrinth all on the, like, I would have been like, can we re-record so they're all three on one and I can just watch beginning to end and rewatch, you know what I mean? Like, so that's the thing, is I don't understand why this was not approved. I think maybe it just slipped through the cracks because there wasn't much on the like, as far as what was approved list that was so off base. Like, my parents did let me be a creative weirdo theater kid, you know, as much as they didn't understand it, they did absolutely let me do that. So I think they would have let me do this with this movie, and I think maybe they just either they got a wrong message about
it being too scary or whatever.
Or they just, it never came up on their radar, so they had no idea. And so because they had no idea, I had no idea.
But now you got to experience it, and hopefully you watch it again and again and again and again and again.
I loved it.
Good.
And like, if I ever have Spawn, even if I like foster older Spawn, I'll be like,
watch this.
You're 14 and we've only just met. Watch it.
Watch it. The thing that was very different with this film is the Tin Man, Lion, and Scarecrow were supposed to have major parts in it, but they had cameos instead.
I was okay with that.
I actually, at the beginning, I was like, I love that they reference them and you see them, and that the Scarecrow does have a part in the film, and they had, because of budget cuts, he was supposed to have a full animated face, but they had to stick to like a permanent.
I did not like that.
I didn't either.
I was like, this is so weird, and just do it like the original. Just
because
have
you
a painted guy's face.
You have the Gump,
so weird,
who has a fully animated face, animatronic face, and so Scarecrow was supposed to too, but because of budget cuts, they said no. And I was like, oh man,
like, just do it with a guy painted like the original.
No.
Don't make it these weird dolls. I hated it.
But they were also, if they were truly trying to be like, this is not a sequel.
True.
They could not do that.
But then again, they could do it in a sequel. I think so.
Characters, like.
And in the very end of the film with the parade scene, fans of the books will notice a lot of the characters from additional books show up in that party scene. They don't get named, but if you're familiar with the book, and I remember the one Wizard of Oz book that I really enjoyed as a kid was the Patchwork Girl book. And you see her in the end, like for a brief second, they show
I remember that book.
Right? And I remember when I watched the film, even now, I was like, I remember seeing her at the end, and there was a bunch of other like characters from the Oz world that show up in the parade scene at the end, which I thought was cool. The other thing I wish they did was have Ozma more in the film. Because you only see her at the beginning and at the end of the
Well, they had to, the actress that played her, they decided that her voice was too British.
Yeah.
So they had the director, Murch's daughter, dub all of her lines. So they cut it because it was weird.
Mm-hmm.
Because so much of her lines were dubbed, it looked
just
strange.
Weird. Yeah.
Should we do pairing?
Should we do pairing? Yes, let's do pairing.
Oh.
This is our segment. Grace.
Dry martini.
Oui, monsieur.
Wait. 3 measures of Gordon's, 1 of vodka, half a measure of quinoa lily. Shake it over rice, and then add a thin slice of lemon peel.
It's drink. I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another.
Grace, give me a stinger.
Yes, this is the part of the show where we pair a cocktail and a little bit of nibblies that'll pair well with this film. Brynne, what would you pair with this film? I'm curious.
I like, okay, so I would say for drink, like maybe a Midori cocktail, so it's nice and green, like Oz. We're getting conceptual here. And then I would pair it with like a cute little lunch pail filled with cute little lunch things.
Oh, okay.
Lunch trees.
I think I would pair it with a little like English tea type of little cake.
Okay, I'm into
with
that.
Yeah, right. With like Kahlua and milk.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, because that's what that looked like to me during the Gnome King scene when he says you want refreshments and he offers a lime cupcake and what is it? Silver.
Oh yeah, the
hot boiling silver.
limestone cake and the melted silver.
He gives a child boiling silver to drink.
I'm into it.
And he's totally calm about it.
Oh,
too.
totally calm about it while he shows off his ruby slippers. What about you, Jonsey? What would you pair this with?
I guess because I feel like this is a kids movie.
Yeah.
It's gotta be like something like a cucumber sandwich.
Okay.
And non-caffeinated tea. So like chamomile tea. Like
that's like old lady.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what kids high
See,
tea.
if we did it for kids, I would have picked like a Snowball and Dr. Pepper.
Yes. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like a hose
But I
snacks
also
and
don't
sugar
feel
'em up.
like that kid is watching this movie. I'm trying to think about the movie.
Yeah. The
Like a
kids
dark
that probably
child?
So
yeah.
like one, I want a cucumber sandwich right now. I think that sounds really refreshing.
Okay.
Right.
And then also like, like a cup of tea, high tea. I don't know. Even though this isn't a British movie, I guess it's a British dark comedy is how they presented it.
American British dark fantasy.
Dark fantasy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just leaning into the British part.
Yeah, very much so with your pairing. So I want to go before we get into our grades of the film. I want like a really brief final thought on this film, like your final review. And Jonsey, when we get to you, let us know if this gets a stamp in the Filmspringa passport. So Brynne, what do you like your final thoughts on this film? If you were going to give a recommendation.
I now want to rewatch it with Flynn, my daughter.
You do think it's?
I do now that I watched it. I'm like, no, this is good. We should watch this together. Like,
is it horny approved?
Yeah. What was the horny level on this one?
Negative horniness.
The good answer.
That means you're not a sociopath.
Negative.
Good job.
Yeah. We were a little worried with the severed heads and
except for when
stuff
she's
as a
shaking
kid,
her head. That's a little horny.
Yeah, just a little.
You know when she's in the nightgown without her head, walking around.
Oh, I know.
Stop.
That's a little horny.
Stop.
Just stop right there.
Okay, you guys asked. I'm sorry for speaking my truth.
What about you, Jonsey? What is your final thoughts on this film? And does it get a stamp in the Filmspringa passport?
this gets a stamp and a Filmspringa passport. Yay. Although I don't know if all the ex-evangelical folks would appreciate it, because I don't know if they're the kind of like already grew up on the labyrinth and all that kind of stuff. But no, this 110%, I thought this was a great movie. I thought it was a little dark and a little heavy at times, but like also, especially if you're like 9 or 10, you want that a little bit of dark and heavy.
Yeah, you want
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're like, you're introducing me to the risk. I like it. So yeah, no. I love this movie. I think 100% stamp in the passport.
Good. Yay.
I think it's definitely, I wish, this is one that I don't know if we have this category yet. I wish I had watched at a younger age.
You watched it when you were younger.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I would have totally loved it so much more than I already do love it.
Yeah, I think for me, the final thoughts on this film is obviously I love this film. I think for me, because I watched it at a young age, it really influenced, and Lena knows this with my artwork, it really did influence a lot of my artwork.
That's rad.
This type of film. And for any fans of Tim Burton out there, you would really appreciate this film, because there is a lot of, it has that feel, that dark but yet not menacing, scary.
Like the dark safety. Oh,
yeah,
wait.
dark safety.
Can I also say, if you love any of that stuff, you would also love Tony _baloney macaroni's artwork.
Yes, thanks for the plug, Jonsey.
I might have fucked up that username.
No,
I got the name drop. Do we want it or no?
Yes, give it to us. Give it. How did you get this?
Oh my God, you have the. Oh my God, guys!
It actually wasn't that hard.
The one and only Brynne.
It actually wasn't that hard.
Okay, go ahead.
So, Piper Laurie was in Carrie with Sissy Spacek.
Yes.
Sissy Spacek was in The Help with Emma Stone. Emma Stone was in Crazy Stupid Love with Kevin Bacon. You have to use a Kevin Bacon connection.
You have to.
Kevin Bacon was in Sleepers with Minnie Driver.
Wow.
Sleepers, also great.
They were gasping in awe this time, the studio audience. All right, it is time for our grades for this film. I will go first. I gave it an A+ last time, and I'm sticking to my grade. A+ all the way around for me with this film. What about you, Brynne?
What did I give it last time? A B?
You gave it a B+.
I'll go up to an A.
An A? Okay, good.
I'm into it.
And Jonsey's been, for the last few films, notoriously giving low grades on our picks. So this film, what is the grade you're giving it?
I give it a solid A. It was great.
Oh, yes,
I love it.
Today. Yay, thank God.
And actually, it's debatable. I give it an A+.5. You know what I mean? Like,
watch it again, and it'll be an A+. It gets better every time.
That's what I think. I think it's one of those things where, like, it was just my first experience, so it was like, I'm working out a few details. Yeah. Why do the rocks' mouths move that way, and his mouth doesn't? Also, I did not like how quickly his eyes became bloodshot.
Oh yeah. It's probably the makeup at the time. So Brynne, Brynne, let us know what our next film is for next week.
Our next film is going to be one of my personal faves, Gross Point Blank.
Oh God, this is such a good
John
film.
Cusack, Minnie Driver.
Yeah, we're going into the 90s, the late 90s. 1997 is when it came out. American Black dark comedy. It's really good. I love this film. I haven't watched it in a long time, but you get both Cusacks in this film. You cannot go wrong.
You cannot go wrong.
Okay, what movies do we not get both?
A lot. Lately there's a lot, but when this came out in the 90s, they weren't there. Yeah, Working Girl.
Lena,
never seen
looking at this poster, what do you think this movie is about?
Yeah.
Looking at the poster now.
Yes.
Yes. What is it about?
So I know it's a class reunion already.
How do you know that?
Because I'm not dumb and I existed while this movie came out. I just didn't watch it.
So what happens at the class reunion?
I also know he's an assassin
So you know much of this film.
Yeah, you already know the plot. There's the plot, everybody. She got it.
Okay.
So I had an ex who decided John Cusack was his favorite actor. And he was really pretentious.
I love how you say that like people aren't allowed to decide those things.
I know.
He decided for himself. Okay.
He decided.
He was really pretentious. So it just made me think that everything he did was really pretentious.
So passive aggressive. Instead of saying John Cusack was his favorite actor, you say he went and decided.
So she's going into this film already going, nope.
A mark against it.
You can't, Jonesy. You got to clear the state. Like Brynne says, take those nostalgic glasses off and watch it.
Nostalgia goggles off.
Yeah.
And just watch.
And this is why I haven't seen this film. So now we actually have a different perspective. It's not about Mon Pa Jones. It's actually about Lena's ex.
Oh, this is going to be a real interesting show next time.
Sounding like a real pretentious asshole.
Wait,
let's do our grades.
Oh, our grades before. Yeah, thank you for reminding me. I'm going to give this a solid B.
I'm going to give it an A.
Okay. Okay, we're switching
this
it.
Is a fave. Okay. This is a fave in the McGeckran household.
The McGeckran household.
Yeah.
Oh no, those always worry me.
I know, me too. Shoot.
Why? Because we have such an awesome taste, and you guys can't keep up.
No,
because
I usually like them all.
In full force.
Yeah,
we do.
But everybody.
So, Brynne, you give it an A or an A+? I'm sorry.
An A. I'll give it a solid A.
Yeah. Well, that is the show. We covered Return to Oz, and we exposed Jonesy to a great film.
And I loved it.
Good.
I loved it.
So you can follow the podcast at Filmspringa on anywhere you get podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and follow us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can watch us live every Thursday night at 7:15. And you can watch us on Out at TV every Friday night at 8 o'clock. We're there. If you miss the show Thursday, you can watch it there. You can watch my other show, Who Invited Her, on Monday nights at Out at TV at 7 p.m. I think it is on Monday nights. Or Tuesday nights, Tuesday nights. You can follow the podcast at Filmspringa on Instagram. You can email us with your 6 degrees or name drop or any film recommendations at filmspringapodcast@gmail. And that is it for us, everybody. We will see everybody next week. Bye.